and welcome to Nadia's Molten Imaginings. In this video I am going to be showing you some tips and tricks and techniques for encaustic wax journaling. Recently on this channel I made this big handmade sketchbook. I bound it all myself and I included lots of interesting craft papers and bits like this, which is backing paper from when I'm making my encaustic paintings, and it's just basically scribbles of wax, and I really wanted to work into these and turn them into something fun and different and just generally doodle on them. Only problem with this lovely handmade sketchbook is there's no point in having all these lovely craft papers if you're just going to stick things down, which is what I did, and I do quite often, is just stick things in, and it turns out to be more of a scrapbook than a sketchbook. So what I'm wanting to do is actually take these pages and work into it like a proper sketchbook. I also have here a couple of bits and pieces that I might stick in on top. I've got a handful of mini paintings which would look really nice just dotted about on a page, and then I can work into it a bit more. And I've got some more paper with wax on it. This is really nice paper as well, and I might tear it. But the main thing I'm going to be doing is using my encaustic stylus just to draw and sketch and doodle. So have here a little scraper tool with different ends, and I might end up scraping away some of the wax in places. The first thing I do is to outline this area of scribbles with a nice bronze coloured wax, and I'm just sort of working into the edges of the lines and making the outline look like a sort of rough rock. As I'm working, I'm just following the outlines, and I can see that some of this wax is in a pattern that looks like some sort of frond, maybe seaweed coming away from this rock. Since I've got this rock and seaweed going on, I've also painted a little starfish sitting on the rock. I then start going into this block of multicoloured wax in the corner here, and I think it starts to look like some sort of creature. I'm working into it with different colours, red and the bronze. I'm using the red for the teeth and the spines just to make it stand out. And then I've got this piece above his head which I think looks like a sort of lantern, like a lanternfish. Going with my aquatic theme, I then find that this blue piece of wax looks rather like a fish on a fishing line, and I follow that to its natural conclusion, which is the surface of water above, and I'm just filling that in a light, rough, broken line. There's an outline of something here, I don't quite know what it is, but it makes me think of the shape of a submarine, so I draw that in as well. The periscope is sticking up out of the water, and the body of the ship is stuck between two underwater rocks, or at least that's what I think. There is more seaweed, and I'm just defining the shapes and the patterns and going into more of the rock detail as well. The submarine is silver, and it's got these rusty areas, which is the wax that's on the paper. The reason why I am using my stylus tool and not the iron for most of this is that this paper is a rough mixed media paper, so any wax that goes onto it soaks in immediately, so I'm not able to get any of the nice smooth flows I can get with the iron on the smooth paper. I decided to add a boat, also in silver wax, above the waterline, and I then go back in with paler coloured wax to add some smoke coming out of the sea monster's mouth, and I want to add some sort of sky effect. I'm just going to be using my wax blocks as crayons and just crayoning on some colour. Here I use my scraper tool to remove an excess blob of wax which is in the way. And then I go back in with the stylus. Another technique you can use is take the iron as a little hot plate and put it under the paper just so that the wax melts a little. You have to be careful if there's stuff on the other side of the paper, and in this instance I did have stuff on the other side of the paper, so I didn't use this technique for very long, just enough so that the wax was softened slightly. I then just decided to work into this aurora with more of the crayoning effect, mixing the colours on the paper and then going in with the stylus to sort of draw out the lines, and this heated the wax on the paper as well, making it more malleable, and I got some really good effects with this in the end. Another thing I'm really happy with is I added some reflection onto the water and the sail of the little boat, which I then worked into and rubbed back with the little scraper tool. Here's my first page, and this is an underwater scene. It's very rough just to get me going. Now for the next page. Immediately I have a really good stormy sky going on here. It takes very little effort to turn this into a very moody skyscape. Here is a card I did earlier, which is just a mess of colour. I decided to stick this on to add it as a flow of water to the overall composition. This piece, because of all the blues and reds that were going on, made me think of water becoming fire, and this is what I did for the lower part of this painting. Just working into these blobs of red and orange wax just to turn them into flames, and this was great fun, this process, just mixing the colours. The water turns into a lava river in the bottom of this picture, and I'm using a very dark red with some broken lines the way I painted the water on the first painting, and this creates a rough, uneven surface. I need to add a foreground element, which is this really dark lava rock in the foreground here, and I'm using the very edge of the stylus here so that as much wax comes off it onto the paper as possible. The final touch is to add a few little embers flying up from the flames. Well, this one turned into an entire painting. Who would have thought? Now I'm going to turn over and do something on the other page, and when you do, it is a good idea to put a piece of paper between the pages that you've just painted, because the wax can rub off. I think here I am going to be doing a wax transfer, which is just ironing the back of this so that it goes down here, and you need some tracing paper or greaseproof paper for this. I'm not going into this wax transfer technique in too much detail. I have made another video on this which you can check out here, and in fact the technique I'm using is just to transfer some of the wax. There's already a lot of wax on this paper, so when I transfer this I'm just getting a couple of interesting shapes added to the overall wax. The main detail I wanted to transfer was this nice arched shape, which I'm going to turn into this little pavilion, and as I'm working on it I'm thinking it's sort of got this ornate detail on it and it's sitting on a lake, so I'm doing that water technique again. I'm adding some red flags sort of draped around, and as I was working into this I was thinking it doesn't look much like a flag, it looks more like a windsock. So I wasn't really very happy with it, which you can easily fix. I decided to work on these two pages at the same time, and stick down some of my mini paintings that I'm less happy with. This little skier guy goes dotting about the page like he's on skis. I remember I was at a craft fair and a child came over to me and said, can you paint a skier for me? And I wasn't quite sure how to go about that with wax, so I did the best thing that I could in the moment, and I wasn't happy with it, but it's quite fun and characterful. I got some rather odd requests that day. I think I did paint a unicorn that one little child was very happy with and took home. Now I'm just outlining all the pictures with a nice little gold border, so they've kind of got little golden frames around them. I've really not got very much of this gold wax left, so I was just alternating that with my bronze, and the bronze actually went quite nicely with some of the designs with like browner colours in them, so I found this was working quite well. I finally decided that the skier is going on the page, but I decided to cut around him a little, and he's stuck on as a little character interacting with the scene. I decided to give him a little background using the crayoning technique again, and a little tree in the distance which he's skiing towards. This little dark area of wax here I decide is going to have a little house in it, surrounded by trees. I just think it's almost a little landscape in itself, and I don't know how that happened, but I really like it. And then I add one final element, which is the broken ice which the skier is skating over. I think that just ties everything nicely together. Well, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working into some of these sketchbook pages, which I have just been putting off for a while. I now feel like I've populated my sketchbook a bit more, and I will be continuing to work on these other pages probably off camera and just at my own pace until I've finished it, and then moving on to a new sketchbook. For my next video, I've got something else quite exciting to show you. I'm going to be trying for the first time a very, very cheap paint pouring kit and some encaustic wax combined. Stay tuned for that, and thank you very much for watching. Bye!